Now that we're ready to look at the Excel comparison schedules, you'll find that there is a sample file that is pre-built for each of the different categories that were created inside the Revit schedules. There also are two generic Excel templates that one is based on counting objects and one is based on areas of objects, since the formulas in Excel have to be different for each. In this example, I'm going to open up the comparison schedule that's called Arc Walls. These Excel files have multiple tabs in them, but all of the tabs except the one that says comp are basically throwaway. That's for copying and pasting data in, which we're going to do in a couple of minutes. You want to be careful while you're working in these Excel files, since the farther you get to the right, where the deltas are, for instance, you'll see that all of the formulas are baked in there. That's how we're getting the increases or decreases from each model during the project period. So you want to leave those formulas intact. These Excel files are created to be the same format as what we just exported. So if I go to the sample exports folder I made, you'll see that we now have our export from the first version of the model and our export from the second version of the model. I'm going to just open wall objects from the first version of the model, and that will open in a separate Excel file. You'll see here that we have a very basic table. Some of the fields are empty, and that's because we're tracking the name of the linked Revit file, and in this case, because it's the sample project, there are no linked Revit files. What is important is that you grab all of the data except the header column and copy it. This is where, if you want to work directly in the comp schedule, you can, but some of these throwaway tabs that exist earlier are handy if you have multiple tables that you want to copy and paste information from. So I'm going to just paste sample export 1 into this schedule. One of the fields that you'll notice was called scope group, and it was currently blank. That's handy so that you can do things like write export 1 in this column, so that in a minute, when we paste in export 2, we'll be able to keep track of the fact that they are different exports. Once you have that filled in, you can copy it to clipboard, and then you can head over to the comp schedule where you'll want to paste it in. Make sure you are all the way to the left of the comp schedule and in the first cell that has a spot for data, and simply paste it in. You'll notice that everything fills in, and some of the formulas are starting to work already, because the area that comes out of Revit comes in with units, and of course Excel won't know what to do with that. So we have a formula that is truncating the data off for the units. Now, we're going to do the same thing for our second model export, which of course was much larger. And so here, I'm actually just going to fill in export 2 at the same time so that we don't have to copy and paste it into the throwaway sheet. I will grab all my data and copy it. And when I go back into my major workbook of the comp schedule, I'll make sure I'm all the way to the left, and I will simply paste in the data. Now, we have the data so that export 1 is all listed together and export 2 is all listed together. If you were to go to data and sort, you'll see that we already have sorting predefined. It should be by family and type. So if you click OK, you'll see that now they are alternating as export 1 for cavity sliders and export 2 for cavity sliders. The last thing that you have to do to receive all of the deltas is some of the spreadsheets, and it's not all of them, but some of them will have an extra column called area number. That's because the area truncated value actually has a formula in it, and so what we need to do is take all of these values and copy them to clipboard, and then right-click and use paste values. That's because it will then paste the actual numbers in here, and instantly you'll see that we now have increases in the area of all of the walls, and that makes sense since we have copy and pasted the entire project several times in the file so that we could see a change. Basically doing that for all of the different spreadsheets that exist in the comp schedules that we've built will get you the plus deltas on all of the quantities of the model. In this case, you're only seeing pluses because we copy and pasted the model. But what will happen automatically is if export 1 has a wall type called CLW1 and then export 2 does not, it will actually list it as minus 229 right here because it will recognize that that object used to be in the model, but it no longer is. So you can use all of these spreadsheets to review the quantities that are in all of the models and any of the plus deltas that exist. If you want me to do this to any of the sample projects, simply tell me which versions of the model you'd like to use, and I'm happy to throw together the entire array of comp schedules. It's very quick for me to do because I'm used to working in them, and we can actually look at some of the data from the schedules themselves. Once you get comfortable working with the comp schedules, there are two other dynamo graphs, one that allows you to export everything from the Revit model with its corresponding assembly code to Excel so that you can then change its assembly code, and there is another dynamo graph that will then re-import all the assembly codes into Revit so that if you'd like to modify the assembly codes for looking at these estimate numbers in terms of your own assembly codes, we can make those changes as well. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks for watching.